All right. Well, thanks so much. Hi there. And I realize it's day 3 and your heads are probably all just brimming with all sorts of great new information from these fantastic presenters. And I'm going to do my very best to keep the energy high so that you can pull through the home stretch of this, the 2024 Elman Legacy Conference. You still have a few hours to go. And I'm actually going to be back in 4 hours from now for a panel. With Karen Hand Harper and Alan Barsky. So that'll be fun. So thanks for coming to my little presentation. It's not about you. Get your ego out of your sessions. And thank you also to Larry and Cheryl Elman, to all of the other presenters, all of our keynote speakers, of course, and everybody who just sort of the collaborators that put up the new Elman Cafe. How cool is that? And a little tiny quiet round of applause for Justin Letty, Carl Smith, Jason Lena, everybody in the background that just went above and beyond to get this amazing conference up and running and available right there in your living room. I mean, couldn't be more convenient. So welcome, I'm Kryssa Marie Bowman. And as I said, the name of my talk here today is Get Your Ego Out of Your Sessions. It's not about you. But it could just as easily be called Overcoming Imposter Syndrome with something better than confidence, or the real secret to courage, or even please don't fake it till you make it. This might be kind of a revolutionary concept in our industry, huh? And I will leave a little room at the end for a Q&A. So just hang on to your questions until the end. Or if your brain works anything like mine, go ahead and pop the questions into the chat bar so you don't forget them. And then I will read them off at the end. And so you can note out, see, I am a little bit nervous, but I'm also incredibly passionate about this particular subject. Why? Well, because I actually have a lot of experience with this, with imposter syndrome, with crippling anxiety, and of course, the ugly stepsister to both of those, perfectionism. It may surprise some of you to know that I actually suffered from regular bouts of agoraphobia for most of my 30s and 40s. And that might sound like an issue of having no ego, right? To some people, to the average layperson perhaps, but you folks are all hypnotists, so you know that what was really going on was wounded ego. Or if you want to get clinical, weighted subconscious ego state. But it's that wounded ego that keeps us playing small, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of being wrong or being judged. And of course, it's all trying to protect us. It's these unhealed ego states that try to convince us that we're not good enough, that we don't know enough, that we don't have enough credentials and always needing more, and that we are going to somehow screw things up colossally. And again, it's trying to protect us. And this is, of course, one mindset that I think we could really use a massive reset on. And so that's what I'm going to be hoping to provide for you today. So most people would just assume that experiencing the exact opposite of those things would be what you need in order to have the freedom to come out from hiding, to finally step into that spotlight, to play on that bigger stage, to be more confident in their one-on-one sessions. And I actually used to think that too. But here's the thing, I was wrong. Because while the opposite of fear might technically be confidence, having unquestioning, unfaltering confidence is still coming from a weighted ego state. What do I mean by this? Well, picture someone that you know or perhaps have seen on TV or just out there in the world that is 100% confident in all situations at all times, no matter what. They do not question themselves. They do not wonder if they're good enough. They just assume that they are. They don't question whether they know enough about a particular topic before they begin regaling you with all of their vast knowledge on it, which is often not very much. They plod ahead as if they know everything there is to know. And there's a term for this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And for those of you not familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's a cognitive bias in which people with limited competence or knowledge in a particular area overestimate their abilities. There are disagreements about what causes this, and some people are more prone to it. People that are on the spectrum of sociopathy tend to suffer from this frequently. And then some people might just have it in bits and pieces here and there because they don't know what they don't know. And they're kind of afraid to look at the possibility that maybe they need to know more. Some psychologists believe that poor performers will just misjudge their abilities because they fail to recognize the difference between their performances and the performances of others. There's also some evidence that some people have a general tendency to just think that they're better than everyone else. I think we all know at least somebody that comes across that way. And I think that we can all agree that it can lead people to make pretty bad decisions. And this is actually coming straight from Wikipedia because I took a shortcut, but choosing a career for which they are unfit or engaging in dangerous behavior because they overestimate their skills. It also means that those suffering from it won't know that they suffer from it, so there's no impetus to improve. Now, I'm not saying all of this to scare you. We don't want to lose the ability to question ourselves, is what I'm getting at. There is such a thing as a healthy amount of self-doubt. Yes? If we lose that entirely, we run the risk of tipping right on over into assuming that we can do no wrong. And not only is that not helpful, it can be downright harmful. There's the whole issue of dissonance and congruency as well. So even if you are successful in the fake it till you make it, and some people are, in fact, I was back when I was dealing with agoraphobia, there were times that I simply had to do the thing, even though I was shaking in my boots and didn't want and didn't think I could do the thing, but I had no option out. I was a single mom. I had to absolutely go to my kids' school functions, for example, or go get groceries or whatever. And there was bound to be a sense of dissonance between what I was projecting outwardly and then what I was feeling inwardly. And people around me, some of them I'm sure could pick up on that. Now, fortunately, I wasn't in a therapeutic situation with them, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But people who are particularly empathetic can really feel a little bit confused when they are confronted with somebody who is putting on one sort of, mask almost, even if it's for the best of intentions, but what they're feeling inside doesn't match that at all. There's no congruence. Now I'm going to get a little bit esoteric here, so bear with me, and then we'll come back to some of the more like clinical stuff. But we've known since 2017 that it's possible to measure the frequency of human emotions. This was developed in Germany. There's a thing called the Spain scale, which is scale of positive and negative experience. And this has shown good psychometric properties of convergent validity. It's basically showing the human energy field in relation to moods, mindset, and emotions. Okay. Now, that human energy field has also separately been studied countless times throughout the course of human history, and it's been called different things. I'm going to call it that for now because that's kind of what we've all agreed on in the past 20 years. But there is some empirical data using something called GDV, or gas discharge visualization, which measures the residual gas discharge of human bodies as analyzed through computerized photography and captures like the heat signatures of their emotions. And there was a whole big thing done about this in Sweden about a decade ago. But these two things together suggest that even if we have no conscious comprehension that a person may be hiding their true feelings behind a mask or some other emotion, we will sense it unconsciously. It'll be beneath the level of our conscious awareness, but we will sense it. And this kind of goes along hand in hand with like all those little micro gestures, micro expressions that we make that you might pick up on at a less than conscious level. It'll be beneath the surface of your full awareness, but it will nonetheless affect you and make you feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So even if you're getting in a session, a one-on-one session, lots of yes sets and great rapport, if you're really feeling one thing internally, but presenting something else externally, there is, on this not quite conscious level, a pretty good chance that your clients pick up on this. This doesn't mean it's going to ruin your session, by the way, not at all, but it might prevent your client from being completely honest with you. It might prevent them from being completely honest with you about how they're feeling, or later about their results, because on some level, they sense your hesitancy, nervousness, all that, and they don't want to upset you further. Especially if you happen to have clients that are themselves dealing with issues of things like people pleasing and conflict avoidance. Now, again, I'm not saying this to scare you, which is kind of ironic, scare you out of being scared. No, I'm actually saying it because there's a better way. And that's what this is all about. Okay, so I had to set the stage before I give you the better way. There is an ingredient, a secret ingredient. And it's actually not so secret, because as soon as I start to explain it, it'll all click into place. And I hope that you'll just go like, oh, I get it now. There's a way to establish real rapport and be in a state of congruence, even if you've got some of that sneaky self-doubt coming in. And self-doubt in and of itself isn't a bad thing. In fact, right before this very presentation, I saw Jason Linett sent out an email, or maybe it was in Facebook, a post where he was calling it a natural uneasiness when it's something that you're kind of new at, right? And I think that this can actually be used to help us. It can help keep us honest with ourselves. There's a way to get it to work for us rather than against us. And just because you feel that uneasiness or that self-doubt doesn't mean that it has to be a block. It's just a minor obstacle. And there's a way to reframe this, and I'm gonna share that with you. But before I explain this much better way, I do want to quickly go back to that other form of false confidence, the one that's based on hubris, superiority, thinking you can do no wrong, or really just maybe the inability to consider that you may not be the world's greatest hypnotist. Now, I doubt anybody in this room feels that way, but I'm sure we've probably met somebody that has, right? In this case, the client is also less likely to be honest about their feelings or their outcomes or what's going on in the session for fear of being ridiculed or belittled, being made to feel inferior to. And so we need to sort of step all of that back, because if we can't receive updates or feedback from our clients, if all we can receive are glowing responses of their success, then that's really built on a house of cards, isn't it? That's pretty fragile. And if we're trying to attempt to control the outcome simply by denying that there could ever be an outcome other than the one that we want, well, that doesn't sound particularly therapeutic to me. I don't know about you. Does this sound like the qualities and characteristics most beneficial in a change worker, or really anybody in the healing professions? So aside from the whole fake it till you make it not always being particularly helpful for your clients, it can also be deceptively harmful to you, the practitioner, because you are inadvertently reinforcing the idea that the real and authentic you isn't good enough, and that the only way that you're going to have successful client outcomes or sessions is for you to pretend to be something else. Something that you feel like you're not, which, by the way, is really just you calling forth an ego state that it does actually exist within you. You can't just, it's there, otherwise you wouldn't be able to call it forth, right? So it does in fact exist. It's just perhaps not fully integrated. Maybe it needs a little bit of healing. Maybe it just needs to be more comfortable. You need to get in there and use it a little bit more so that it feels more authentic. So it's not exactly fake. It's just, again, not fully integrated. And that's just one more reason to hang that ego up at the door before entering into the sacred space of your one-on-one sessions. As a side note, and this speaks more to, I guess, the content and course creators out there, but these overconfident ego states are, in my personal opinion, what lead to rampant mediocrity in the healing arena. Also in arts, popular culture, movies, music, etc. But I feel like there's just a lot of people out there that really overestimate their abilities. They have this intense confidence. They're not really lacking in self-doubt at all, but what they're putting out there into the world to be consumed is not really particularly all that great. So what I think then happens is there's really fabulous artists, change workers, hypnotists, musicians, etc., out there that are not putting themselves out. And so what the average, person in our world is being offered to consume is not as high quality as it could be. So all of those people that are hiding themselves because of the self-doubt that actually do in fact have some absolute brilliance, but they're just lacking in the confidence to get it out there, you're really robbing the world. You're robbing the world of your unique perspective and understanding simply because you don't have as much confidence as somebody over there whose perspective might not be quite as interesting, unique, or helpful. Anyway, that's just my little tiny, I digress there. But either way, we're dealing with an ego state that's lacking in confidence or an ego state that is overly confident. Either one of those is not helpful to your sessions because we're taking something away from our clients. When we bring either of those ego states in, we're taking the privilege of being the main character away from our clients. And being the main character when you're a stage or street hypnotist, or even in a situation like this where you're giving a presentation as I am now, is absolutely necessary. I mean, how boring would I be right now if I wasn't embodying main character energy, right? So we do need that ability. I'm just saying it's not helpful in your sessions. Bringing that main character energy into your one-on-one sessions, it's just not fair to the client. They are paying you money, often substantial sums, in order to be the one that is receiving all of your attention, and rightfully so, because that in and of itself is very therapeutic. So now that we've examined the problems with bringing our ego into our sessions, we're still left with what the hell do we do with it instead? Some suggest killing the ego. But those folks aren't familiar with the very important role that our ego plays in our survival as humans. You guys, fortunately, are, because you're all hypnotists. You understand that it's very intertwined with our subconscious mind to such a degree that most parts work doesn't even delineate the difference between a subconscious subpersonality and an ego state. They are interchangeable, okay? It also houses our conscience, our sense of loyalty, responsibility, morality, all of that stuff. So even if we could kill the ego, I would not suggest it. Is anyone in here familiar with that story, Mark Twain's story, The Facts Concerning the Recent Carnival of Crime in Connecticut? Yes, no, yes, no. Okay. Well, without going into great detail, Twain wrote the story about a man who discovers a way to get rid of a particularly annoying ego state. It kind of comes to life and comes to visit him. And it's this short, moldy, gnarled up, green little, being, little dwarfy man thing. And so he kills it and he's so happy. He's so happy. He's just exuberant that he has finally killed this annoying ego state of his. And it turned out that that was his conscience. And so he proceeds to go on a carnival of crime in Connecticut. So yeah, let's just file that away and don't kill the ego. Heal the ego, yes, don't kill the ego. So we can't kill it. And as I've hopefully illustrated, we can't just flip it upside down either. Taking self-doubt and flipping it upside down into the exact opposite, which is that fake it till you make it kind of confidence, right? So what can we do? Well, the first obvious answer is to heal the wounded or evaded ego states. Yes, of course, please, definitely get on that. But here's the thing, that takes time. In fact, it can take a lifetime. It probably will, at least in my case. I don't know about you. But we have careers. We need to be able to get out there into the world. We need to be able to earn an income. We want to be able to help people, right? And so, we have all these powerful skills. We have these tools. We have these abilities. We can put them all to work. And the only thing that's standing in the way is this self-doubt. And so what we need to have is a method of doing this so that we can put it into practice immediately. That it's not contingent upon healing every last little bit of your own wounding, because we just don't have that kind of time, frankly. Now, keep doing that, please, while you are working, while you are building your business, while you are earning your income, while you are getting better and better and better at being a hypnotist, continue to work on yourself, please. But don't let that be the thing that you're saying, like, well, when I'm finally fully healed, then I'll put myself out there, because that's just never going to happen, right? We need to go ahead and start now. And so some might guess that what I'm talking about as far as the secret ingredient is courage. And yeah, sure, that's part of it. Yep, but that's not the secret ingredient. There's actually something before that. And there's also different kinds of courage, right? So it does matter what kind you're tapping into. I mean, it takes courage to go to war, yes, but that isn't the kind of courage that we want to be bringing into a one-on-one client session. That's not going to be helpful. So if we look at situations in our lives where we really wanted to do a thing, but we're afraid to do the thing, and then we managed to find the courage to do the thing, what was the secret ingredient that got us over that edge, that actually resulted in us doing the thing? Any guesses? You can pop them into the chat. I genuinely want to hear what your guesses are. While you're doing that, I'm going to give you just some illustrations. The want, the drive, the big why, the want of the thing. Close. Those are all very close. Maybe even part of the secret ingredient, but not the full thing. I want you to think back to being a little kid, and you're faced with the prospect of riding a two-wheeled bicycle without training wheels. Just go ahead and close your eyes and recreate that scene. And even if you don't actually remember it in great detail, you can go ahead and just imagine it, right? Just sort of pretend, and then pretend you're not pretending anymore. A little nod to Mike Mandel there. And if for whatever reason you didn't experience that particular thing, then think about something else that was like equally as terrifying, but also exciting, right? Because when we're going to these client sessions, they shouldn't be terrifying in the sense of going into war. They should be terrifying in the sense of exciting, like, oh my gosh, I have this new skill, this new tool, and I can help these people, and I want to help them, and I want to make a career out of this. So there's excitement, right? So let's see, going back to childhood, maybe if it wasn't a bike, it could be like your first time swimming or your first time on a roller coaster. Whatever this thing was, this something that pushed you past the fear, at least enough to do the thing. Like, you still had the fear because you didn't do the thing yet. So of course you're going to have that sort of like natural uneasiness, right? And it's all mixed up with excitement, but then this something came along and tipped it right over into the courage to do the thing. You want to know what it is? Curiosity. That's the secret ingredient. Curiosity. Curiosity about pedaling down the road to your friend's house, curiosity about the new sense of freedom that having a bicycle could bring, curiosity about maybe floating on the water or exploring beneath it, or the sense of losing a sense of gravity on in the water or on the roller coaster, just that being enveloped by the magic of it all. Curiosity about reaching the top maybe of the roller coaster and what it feels like to look out over the whole carnival or the whole town. Curiosity about the sensation of plummeting down that roller coaster so quickly that the landscape just blurs and your belly catches up in your throat, and before slowing down and depositing you back on the humdrum of normal life, you now have acquired this magical experience, this newfound knowledge about yourself. You've had a feeling that you've never had before, and you're capable of feeling as free as a bird, even if only for a few minutes. It was curiosity that brought you that courage. And with that powerful combination, there's no need to fake confidence. Just be curious. Now, fortunately, I'm a naturally very curious person. That's what led me to major in applied psychology. It's also what led to me eventually finding hypnotherapy and becoming so fascinated with hypnotherapy and hypnosis that I have gone down the rabbit hole, and I do not see myself coming back out anytime soon. And since you're here too, my guess is that you are also similarly blessed with that kind of curiosity, yes? Curiosity is what helped me to also remain objective in my lab work back in college. So I want you to imagine for a moment being absolutely 100% confident, just unshakable confidence about the results of a lab experiment. A little backwards, huh? If you are 100% confident in the results of what you think is going to happen in a laboratory research experiment, you will taint the results with your confirmation bias. You will miss out on any of the unexpected results, the anomalies, the things that will push the work further and expand the horizons even more. And essentially, all of your research will become either inconclusive or invalid, not useful at all, because you went into it with an assumption. Like, I know that this thing is going to happen. These will be the results. That is the opposite of the scientific method. So better to approach everything with an open mind. And most importantly, curiosity. Have confidence in your tools instead. Have confidence in the skills that you have acquired to use those tools, rather than having confidence in like a set of prescribed expectations that you are now projecting into the session and onto your client. So approaching things in this way has been kind of a saving grace for me in a lot of ways, just over the years. For example, when someone's behavior seems particularly insensitive or inconsiderate, I could take it very, very personally, or I can be curious about it and kind of go like, I wonder what's going on in that person's life that would result in them feeling this way. And that way it's not affecting me directly because I'm curious about it. And it puts me immediately into the role of sort of observing the situation. This same kind of curiosity works beautifully in our one-to-one sessions. So instead of worrying about whether you're going to be confident enough, or good enough, or remember all the tools and skills, I want you to try just leaning in to that client, energetically speaking, leaning in. And maybe a little bit physically too, because there's an energy being exchanged between the two of you and they can feel that. So lean all the way in. Make that client the most fascinating person that you've ever met. Instead of making them someone that you need to impress, let them be the main character, not you. And just by doing that, you will build real rapport. That client is there to receive your help. They need to know that you care. They don't need to just be impressed by all of your certificates or all of your knowledge or the way that you can twist your words around. They want to know that you care, that it's a safe space, that you're curious about them. You caring about them and wanting whatever is in their highest good goes so much farther towards establishing authentic congruency than just putting on a little song and dance show of what a fantastic hypnotist you are and how you have a 100% success rate, which I'm sorry, nobody does, right? Or how many certifications and diplomas you have, or how you know their problems better than they know their own problems, which by the way, you don't. I don't care how many clients you've had with similar problems, you don't know theirs. And if you think you do, then you're not listening. And you can still be a little anxious inside because your pure curiosity will carry the client and the session forth with sincerity, even if you are a little bit nervous. You won't have to mask up and pretend that you're anything else because the curiosity will be the driving force there. And as you've no doubt realized by now, worrying about what could go wrong in the session doesn't actually improve the odds of things going right. Just in life too, not just sessions. I mean, often worrying about what could go wrong improves the odds of the things going in that direction that you're worried about, precisely because that's what you're focused on. And so, you know, at that point, it's a habit of thought. I realize we all have like some sort of, habits of thought that we've just sort of gathered up and embodied throughout our lifetime. And catastrophizing is one of those, worrying about what could go wrong, trying so hard to avoid the thing by being singularly focused on avoiding the thing. And then, oh my gosh, I'm so focused on the thing that now here's the thing. But like all habits, once you recognize that it is a habit, it moves into the realm of choice. You become aware that you are accidentally placing yourself in the main character role. And in that moment, you can choose to step aside and hand that role to your client. And in time, simply from having more and more sessions where you let your clients be the main character, not your ego, that new habit will come about. And that new habit will be the confidence that the session will go exactly as it needs to go without you projecting an end result onto it. And I want you to consider for just a moment how much pressure that takes off of you. How much pressure does that take off of your shoulders? Right there, just by stepping out of main character energy, just by doing that. And simply by witnessing how the sessions evolve. And then further witnessing how the client transforms because you're open to the feedback, you're listening. And then this natural confidence, the kind that is born from trusting that it will go well, that no matter what happens, as long as you've got your client's highest good as your biggest priority, rather than protecting a fragile, weighted ego state as your biggest priority, then things will evolve beautifully in whatever way they need to. So not only is it not necessary to have unshakable, unwavering, unquestioning confidence, I'm saying it is downright irresponsible and potentially even harmful. And if you're one of those like really knowledgeable change workers, you know who you are, the ones that have taken course after course after course. You've been doing practice sessions or sessions on trade, honing your skills for years, maybe even decades, waiting until you have that illusory sense of unshakable self-confidence before you fully jump right in. Then listen up. You've already got everything you need. And the longer that you withhold it from us, the longer our world doesn't benefit from your unique brilliance, your unique perspective. There are plenty of people out there that you can be helping, starting right where you are right now, even in a state of self-doubt. And you do have something to offer. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet, yes? There are going to be people that automatically resonate with you, your voice, your experience, your skill set. Let them find you. They exist. But they won't be able to find you if you're hiding away, waiting to feel more confident, waiting for that next course to give you that unshakable sense of confidence, waiting for that next certificate to be the thing that you finally can hang your ego on and say, see? They won't be able to find you if you're pretending to be someone that you're not. So getting back to that little voice of self-doubt that you've been trying to get rid of, might I suggest making friends with it instead? That voice doesn't have to be your enemy. It only feels that way because you've been perceiving it as a block. But what if it's not a block? What if it's not an actual stop sign, but really just a yield sign? Suggesting that you pause for a moment to check in with yourself, to make sure you do have the tools and the skills to use them, and most importantly, the ability to step out of the way, to get curious, and to let your client be the primary focus of your sessions, not you. What if that's all that is? In other words, if you stop trying to control for everything in order to avoid the self-doubt and just step into the role of being absolutely fascinated by your client, by the session, curious how deep they'll go, curious what they might discover, curious how their own consciousness will work with you to help them make these transformations, these breakthroughs, gain these insights, curious about what you might learn from them, while also, of course, teaching them some helpful skills and giving them some helpful tools, because that's what you have acquired along the way, and you can help them with all of that. But work with them as a collaborator in their healing process. Working together, because guess what? It's not about you. Get curious. I don't know about you, but if you've ever had a nightmare, you can choose to be terrified of that nightmare. And oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to go back to sleep again. That was just absolutely terrifying. But I found that if you just get curious about it instead, I mean, really, like right there in the dream. And it opens up a whole world. I started doing this when I was a kid because I used to have just like awful repetitive nightmares for a while. And I couldn't seem to make them go away by battling them or by staying awake. So just getting curious, like, oh, I wonder what that thing is. Maybe I should look it in the face instead. And it just automatically, all the fear just kind of goes away, just dissipates because you're curious. Curious is the natural antidote to anxiety and fear. Get curious about what your clients might do with these newfound tools and skills that you are bequeathing upon them. Get curious or still about all of the new and wonderful changes that they'll be making in their lives as a result of this collaboration with you. Get and stay curious, because the greatest teachers you will ever encounter in this career as a hypnotist are your clients. And the moment you try to control for everything, or the moment you think you already know everything, is the moment that you've stopped listening, stopped learning, stopped growing as a change worker. And so the primary points here, just to like drive them home, are that when we pretend to be unflappable, our clients on an energetic level will sense this inauthenticity. It's kind of like a relationship built on a mask. It's ultimately unsustainable. So instead of this fabricated fake it till you make it confidence, consider the revolutionary alternative of just being curious. Curiosity fueled by open-mindedness. And those two things together allow us to adapt, be creative, to respond to the unique collaboration within each session, to have the courage to trust that collaboration, because you know that your intentions are rooted in the client's highest good, rather than just trying to keep up some appearance of how great you are for the sake of your own ego. And doing this will liberate you. It will liberate you from the pit of that anxiety, giving up the need to control. Because once you give up the need to control, you can allow for the spontaneous, beautiful, unexpected things to happen. And being able to navigate those, that's true confidence. That's not an act. That's earned through experience and humility and the ability to question ourselves and to be open to learning and growing. We have to acknowledge our vulnerability and let it work for us, instead of trying to hide it away or pretend that it doesn't exist. Because that false front of unwavering self-confidence in every situation prevents us from recognizing what we may need in order to improve our own selves. And who becomes the victim of that arrogance? Your clients. So remember, words can lie, masks can be put on, but the frequency of our emotions, that gets through. There's no way to hide that. And clients can, at some level, I believe, maybe not all of them, but most of them sense that charade. They may not consciously identify it, but they'll feel the dissonance when there's an internal state that's contradicting the external state. Authenticity is the key that unlocks true rapport. And forging a connection beyond that superficial false front is where you create a safe space for these beautiful transformations to occur. It's about letting go of the control, of the desire to control each session, which is an ego trap, right? It wastes precious energy, it breeds anxiety, and ultimately it can backfire. So instead, embrace the fluidity of the unknown with pure and total curiosity, allowing the session to unfold as it needs to, knowing that by removing yourself from being the main character, you can place your client's highest good front and center at all times. And this will allow you to trust the process, to trust yourself, to trust your client's inner wisdom, because that's where their transformations are going to be coming from. You are not the healer. I hate to break it to you. You're the communicator, the translator, the facilitator. You may even be the guide, but you are not the healer. Your client is the healer. They are healing themselves in a collaborative effort with you. And our client stories and interactions are a gold mine of education for us. That's where we're going to learn the most. That's where we're going to really up-level our own skills. So please don't let self-doubt and ego cloud this. Go ahead and be fully present in your sessions by being tuned into curiosity. That curiosity becomes a lens through which you perceive their journey and the overall intention of even their unspoken needs. Seeing your client as a collaborator, entering the session with openness, remembering that you're not meant to control your sessions. You are co-creators of this transformative experience with your clients. They are the healers. You are the facilitator. And I am such a firm believer in this approach that I designed my entire Quantum Journeys Hypnosis Academy on this very approach, that we are not the healers, that our clients are the real healers, that the resources and the wisdom that they need is already a part of their multidimensional consciousness. And it's our job to help get them in touch with whatever they need to make the changes or the improvements or gain the insights that they desire. And I tell you what, handing the GPS over to the client's highest self takes an enormous amount of pressure off of us as change workers. Stepping out of the need to try to control for everything as a means of counteracting self-doubt actually allows for a much greater freedom and flow within the session. And curiosity is a far more effective state than confidence, that fake it till you make it kind when it comes to your sessions. And honestly, it's really the only way to let your client take their rightful place as the main character, right? And they deserve that. So I'm going to ask now if we have any questions whatsoever, or anything that you would like to know more about, or I don't know if you want to just give me a hard time for coming out here and finally saying the thing that's like, get your ego out of your sessions. I know that there's probably some people that are like, oh, don't say that, Kryssa. You can either raise your hand and then like the little emoji hand, and that'll pop you up to the top right, or just unmute yourself, because we don't know how many people we
I
have.
agree, because we don't heal. It's like, I get really embarrassed if somebody says, oh, you healed me. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It's just, I'm a guide. I merely
Yes.
guide. So I completely agree with you on that one. And I apologize for missing most of your talk. I was elsewhere. So, but thank you.
No, that's
great.
fine. Thank you so much, Claudia. Yeah, and I have always felt that if we take that title, that label for ourselves, like I am the healer, I healed this person, then we are robbing them of that. And that can also breed an inadvertent sense of dependency on us as the therapist. And then they don't get to have that confidence in themselves going forward of like, oh, I do have this. I know how to do this. They'll just keep thinking that they need it from us. So yeah.
I agree. So when I get if there's anything, they go, oh, Claudia did this. I go, no, you did it. Well done you. Or they send me something else. I go, well done you. Well done you. And it's really important to do that. I agree, because I don't want people relying on me. Thanks. No.
Right. But what you have is this really valuable skill set, which gets them into touch with the parts of themselves that do know how to heal themselves. Right.
We all do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And that's no small thing. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's huge. If they could do it on their own, they would be doing it on their own. The fact that they're reaching out to us means that they're saying like, hey, I have not figured out how to do this yet. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. And that just brings me to another thing. I know you didn't ask this, but I just wanted to touch upon this. And this comes from Brene Brown, not me. And I have it taped up right here on I'm going to show it to you, my monitor at all times. It says, negatively judging yourself for needing help, which is that thing like, oh, I can't help people until I'm perfect, until I'm perfectly healed myself. Negatively judging yourself for needing help ends up flexing the same muscle that causes you to judge others for the same thing. And so if we're in the realm of helping people heal themselves, and then we come out of the gate thinking like, well, I'm not allowed to ask for help. I have to be perfect in order to do this work. I don't want to admit that I might need help. We are basically activating a muscle memory that now turns that judgment without meaning to against our clients. Yeah. So once again, get your ego the hell out of there, and we won't have to worry about any of this stuff, right? Pick your ego up after the session and keep working with it, healing it, playing with it, taking it out for lunch, all the beautiful inner child work you want to do with it. But when you're in the session,
you've just given us all permission to be vulnerable as well.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Instead of trying to deny it, repress it, pretend it doesn't exist, squash it down, put on the false front. I mean, how comfortable is that? And isn't it exhausting? I don't know about you, but when I first started doing this, I thought that because this is what I was taught, that even if you're shaking in your shoes, you have to put on that false front of confidence no matter what, because that's what your client is going to see and follow. And if you have that, then they'll think, oh, she knows what she's doing. And it's almost like a placebo effect that they'll somehow get better if they believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself, right?
Yeah, I sometimes share and then sometimes it helps them think that I'm not all perfect, and I think that is far more beneficial, to be honest. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
I do too. I do. I think that there's a certain strength that comes with being able to share your vulnerability. It takes courage, but then as soon as you do, you start to build that muscle and you realize it's okay. And you're able to relate to your clients on that deeper level. So thank you so much, Claudia. Are there any other questions, comments? Vanessa says, love that. Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks. And feel free if you want to just like, yes, I see Wes, Rocky. Yes.
Kryssa, fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
And I am curious, what if we just dissolve our roles? Because I believe that this is advantage of our profession as compared to medical or psychotherapy, when the roles are well defined and executed. In our profession, I believe we have more space for the mystical experience of something which is happening between my client and me.
Oh, now you're talking my language, babe. The mystical experiences, I'm all about that. Yes, I absolutely agree. I think, other than having a label purely for the sake of people being able to find us, right? Because they need to know how to find us. So we are hypnotists, we are hypnotherapists, we are change workers. But beyond that, we don't necessarily need to have those labels. And especially in the session, I think, one of us has a whole lot of tools and the skill set to use them, and the other one needs some of those, but they're teaching us just as much as we're teaching them. Like my practice has skyrocketed as far as just education goes, not from a bunch of courses, but from really just listening and being curious and trusting that no matter what happens in the session, it's going to be exactly whatever needs to happen in the session, as long as I always have my client's highest good as the front and center priority and not like protecting my fragile little vulnerable ego, So thank you, Wes. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody else. It's been such an honor and a privilege to share these revolutionary, perhaps even avant-garde concepts with you. And if you want to get a taste of what it's like to have your own highest self, sort of paving the way to your highest good, then I do have a treat for you. In the virtual gift bag, I put an offering in there. It is a video recording of a live group hypnosis event that I did last year called the Quantum Jump. And it gets a little mystical there, so have fun with that. It works with your multidimensional consciousness and empowers you into being the artist and the architect of your own future. And it works great even if you're not a strong visualizer. It's not necessary to be able to picture this future at all. We're going to be working in the quantum realm primarily, so you'll see a lot of lights, particles, waves. You'll feel and hear things. It's not traditional hypnosis. I'm not even altogether sure whether it can be called hypnosis, other than the fact that we do induce a trance state. So that's over in the virtual gift bag, and I absolutely welcome all comments and feedback about it. So when you go through it, please absolutely feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate. That is how I continue to learn and grow. And I love just hearing the ways that like every single person's experience is so different with it. And I, of course, am intensely curious about all that. So also I'll be presenting on multidimensional consciousness at HypnoThoughts Live this year in Vegas in July. So I hope to see you all there. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me at KryssaMarieBowman.com. And I'm splashed all over Facebook, a little bit over Instagram and TikTok, but mostly Facebook, at least for now. And then if you're interested in the course itself, it is a dual certification course, quantumjourneyshypnosis.com. Thank you so much to the Elmans. Thank you everyone that came to this presentation. Yeah, I'm just blown away by the honor to be able to present here. And I guess I'm going to be here again in another 3 hours. So tune back in, come back. I can't remember what salon we're in, but it's me, Karen Hand, and Alan Barsky. All right.
That
Thanks
will
so
be-
much. Oh,
That'll
what?
be in Salon A.
Salon A. Okay, so hopefully I'll see some of you there. I know it's been 3 whole days of this. Your brains are probably just like crackling and bursting at the seams, but we're going to have a fun conversation about merging different techniques and how we've used that in our own personal lives. So it's bound to be fun. All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you. That was
Kryssa.
very interesting.
Bye, bye, everybody.